Hi guys, I'm Hani and you are watching my YouTube channel Haniela's, and today I'm gonna be teaching you how to make these Father's Day cookies for all the handymen out there. So let's get started. For the saw, I decided to use a little fancier handle, so I ended up making a paper template that I cut out with X-Acto knife, and I used edible marker to trace it on my cookie. And here I'm outlining, and we're going to flood this section with about 20-second consistency royal icing. If you are new to cookie decorating and you have no idea what I'm talking about, royal icing recipe that I use is posted down below in the description box, and also you can find useful tutorials on how to fin royal icing in the description box as well. Once you've done the handle, let it crust and then use gray royal icing, 15-second consistency, and make the blade. Use a needle tool to distribute the icing evenly. Let it dry and then you can add details with brown royal icing and gray royal icing. For the details, it's ideal to use icing that is slightly thicker so it doesn't spread too much. And now we can make the wrench. Wrench is a super easy cookie. I'm just going to outline the whole cookie with light gray, 15-second consistency. While the base icing is still wet, take darker gray, 15-second consistency, and pipe the middle. And with very light gray, there is a hint of gray in this, although it looks like it's white. Add some shading. Let it dry and then outline the middle. Now we're gonna do the screwdriver. This is going to be a flat screwdriver. I haven't tried making a Phillips head, but I suppose you could also use this same cutter to make the Phillips head screwdriver. I'm starting with doing the handle. I'm using yellow. For this kind of yellow, I actually used lemon yellow and I added touch of orange food coloring. And then you can do the metal part with light gray. While the gray is wet, take that very light gray and make a little bit of shading on the side. Let it crust and then you can add the middle. To finish up, I'm going to use piping consistency yellow and piping consistency black. Now we're gonna do the hammer. Super easy design, and this is also really fun. I'm doing the very top first with gray, then I'm going to do the handle with yellow, let it crust, and do the middle with black. Once all crusted or dry, you can add details with piping consistency royal icing. Now we're gonna do the washers. These are really small and very simple. Outline and flood with light gray, let it dry, and then add a few details with piping consistency. To make this shape, I used the cutter from my mini set, and I cut out center with round cutter. Now we are going to do the pliers. So I'm starting with yellow again. Let it crust and then you can outline and flood the top with light gray. I'm going to let it crust again, and then with piping consistency I will outline. Now we're gonna do the level. So this is a rather small cutter. I wish I had a bigger cutter that would be suitable for this, but you can apply this to any rectangular shape. So I use my paper template to make the square shapes, flood it with white, let it crust, and then flood the whole thing with yellow. And let it dry completely. To finish up, I will be using edible markers. Now take piping consistency yellow and outline, and the level is done. Another design is a measuring tape. Again, I'm using a paper template to trace the outlines with edible marker on my cookie. Starting with a gray, we're going to outline and flood. And for this, again, I'm using 15-second consistency. Let it crust and then make the middle. I'm using black, and then for the top I'm gonna add yellow. Use yellow to make the measuring tape, and then also this little button on the side, it locks the measuring tape in place. I'm not sure what's it called, but I'm just gonna call it measuring tape lock. Let it crust, and then you can add all the other details. Outline, and for this middle part actually you have to let it dry. I kind of forgot because I will be drawing there on with edible marker, and you want that icing to be dry through. So this is a 25 feet measuring tape, and it is by DeWalt. And I left the most complicated tool for the very end. I'm gonna do the drill now. So again, I use the paper template and edible marker to trace the outlines on my cookie, and then we can start with the royal icing. Some of these sections that you see here, you have to let them crust before you add another layer of icing next to it. That way you have a nice definition in there. For example, these two pieces, I'm going to outline and flat both of them, but because there is a middle part in the center and I don't want it to be blended together, I'm going to let these crust and then I will fill that little part in there later. Let it crust and then you can add the yellow top. That's the battery. And now we can do the black for the handle. Once this gray part crusts, you can add the drill bit and then let it dry completely. Use piping consistency to add the details. Use edible marker to write on cookies. I also ended up making screws and nails. For the screws, I cut out small triangles and I'm using gray royal icing for the base. I'm gonna let it dry and then use piping consistency gray to make the thread. To make the nails, I'm just gonna make a little button on the top, almost like a mushroom. Let it crust and then make a long stem and use your needle tool to drag the icing into the point. And that's how you can make these handyman cookies. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Which one is your favorite? I absolutely love how the level turned out and all those tiny little screws. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time.